The Royal BC Museum and Archives is entrusted with hundreds of thousands of documents connecting us to the history of our province. If you've ever been to Esquimalt Gorge Park and wondered about a stone marker identifying the site as a Japanese garden, that is a story that the Archives is ready to reveal.
In 1904, the British Columbia Electric Railway Company purchased 20 acres on the Gorge Waterway from the Hudson's Bay Company. The following year, Tramway Gorge Park opened with walkways, bridges, picnic tables, and electric lights.
And they had their rail car travel up through there so visitors could have easier access to the park.
The park became a popular day trip for Victorians.
And there was a lot of things for people to do there. There was swimming, amusement, games.
2 years later, in 1907, two prominent members of Victoria's Japanese-Canadian community, Hayato Takada and Yoshitaro Kishida, raised $5,000 to open a Japanese tea garden in the park. One of the men
Convinced his father, Isaburo Kishida, who was a professional gardener in Japan, to come to Victoria and work on the garden, to design the grounds and the tea house that was going to be there.
For the next 3.5 decades, Tramway Gorge Park and the Japanese garden flourished. But then came the 30s, Depression, and then World War II.
In 1939, the imposition of the War Measures Act led to all sorts of subsequent laws and acts that started to restrict the activities and movements of Japanese people, specifically on the coast. By the 1940s, the Takada family was starting to sell off parts of the garden or give them away to friends.
Then, on December 7, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
That's when internment kicked in, and so all people of Japanese descent were removed from the coast. They lost their property in terms of houses and businesses, and they were interred in the interior. At that point, the garden obviously wasn't operating. It got vandalized. Things were sold off. Eventually, the government itself sold it off, ironically enough, to help pay for the cost of internment.
Visit the park on the Gorge Waterway as the municipality of Esquimalt takes steps to return North America's oldest Japanese garden to its former glory.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia's stories together.